General William Tong. Retirement commission too. He was first elected as Attorney General in 2018 and re-elected in 2022. It seems like a long time ago away already, but and I'm happy to say that CSEA endorsed his candidacy both times. Prior to that, he served in the General Assembly for, I think, 6 terms, 12 years, representing his district in the Stamford area. And I know he is from that, we endorse him in those candidacies too. I believe he was a labor-friendly or a worker-friendly person, legislator and Attorney General. And to paraphrase another AG who spoke recently, he is not the governor's private attorney. He's not.
The governor doesn't know that.
He's not the prosecutor for the legislator, but he's the attorney for the people of the state of Connecticut. And that's why he's here today to speak about an issue of importance to all people, but especially to older folks that seem to be the targets of this, or maybe they're easier victims. They fall for it easier. But he's going to talk to us about scams and fraud on elders. And so it's my pleasure to introduce to you the People's Attorney, William Tong.
Thank you. We need a mic. Does this mic work? I don't know.
We can hear you online just fine.
How's this? Good? Too loud? Should I not use the mic? I'll use the mic. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Bernadette was here a second ago. I think she's running the show here from her desk. Thank you, Mike, for that very generous and kind introduction. I'm going to stay seated. Usually I like to move around and I'm kind of animated when I speak, but I've never spoken to 12,000 people. So apparently we have many other members who may be piped in here through the internet. So I got to stay stationary so they can see me in this modern Zoom linked world. It's kind of hard to believe that I'm in my 2nd term as Attorney General. I'm finishing my 5th year. It feels like only yesterday I was kissing Windheimer's ass to ask him for his support. You came through. There's a lot of kissing. And 17 years in elective public service. So I've been around for a little bit, served 12 years in legislature and 4 years as chairman of the Judiciary Committee. But that doesn't come close to all of you and your incredible service to the people of this state. So it doesn't get said enough. I think we all should do a better job of saying thank you. I was born and raised here, Hartford, West Hartford, Glastonbury. I now live in Stamford, so I'm from the area, but my parents are immigrants to the Hartford area. We're very lucky to grow up in a state where I had every opportunity, and my 4 sisters, and to go from a Chinese restaurant kitchen in Wethersfield, which is where I grew up. They had a Chinese restaurant there, to in 1 generation getting the opportunity to serve as your Attorney General speaks a lot to the greatness of our state and the people that have run it for all of my life. So thank you to CSEA and all of its members for making that possible. So now it's my turn to serve all of you. And as you know, I do that in a variety of ways. When you were all working actively full-time for the state, the Attorney General was your lawyer writ large. And for many of you, probably some Joe Lieberman and Clarence Nardi Riddle, probably most Richard Blumenthal for 20 years, 5 terms, and then George Jepson, and now me. Quite a lineup of people who served our state well. So I'm here this morning to talk about elder justice broadly, but most of it talk about what you should all keep an eye out for and how to protect yourselves. There's been a real uptick in scam activity. And on top of that, and I'll talk about why that is, but also we're seeing increased levels of elder abuse and fraud directed at older Americans. And that's become a very serious issue for us in our office, and I want to chat with you about that as well. So, can you tell me, why do you think older Americans, why do you think all of you are targets for scams?
Because we're the older generation that we trust people.
Yes,
Can't be pushed on.
right.
So when they're writing on us, to continue on, that's what we learned.
You're trusting, you're old school, you do things the right way. Yes, ma'am.
We're too used to honesty.
Yes. You, there it is.
Win has the money.
You have money. Your grandchildren don't have money. Your 20-year-old college student doesn't have money, right? Kids and grandchildren that are raising families or paying college tuitions, they don't have money. You have money. And I know a lot of you did things the right way. You worked hard, 20, 30, 40 years of service, and you earned your retirement. And many of you were smart and saved. Scammers know this. They know that older people have money. They have time to take phone calls and respond to emails. They know that too. Sometimes they know that people are, either impaired in their mobility, right? Or, they're struggling with this physical challenge or another one. And so they take advantage of that. But the key thing to keep in mind is you have money, number one. And what I've been trying to remind everybody of is that there is a scam for everyone. What do I mean by that? So I really learned this during COVID when I saw large scale scams where scammers were sending emails to big hospital systems, trying to sell them millions of dollars worth of personal protective equipment, masks, face shields. They operate even at that level, right? There's a scam for everybody. There's a scam, I think you know this, there are a lot of scams directed at state employees, right? They know that you are retirees. They know that you participate in state-related health plans. They know that they can get information about where you worked and how long you worked there because it's swimming around on the internet. There's a scam for everyone, and there are scams that are tailor-made for all of you. So just be aware of that there's no shortage of, we were just talking about this, Mike and I, there's no shortage of ingenuity and creativity and frankly, genius among scammers, right? They're always thinking of a new way to get to us, to take advantage of us and to hit us in just the right way. And they do it through phone calls. That's the traditional way that we're used to, and robocalls, but also increasingly by text, by email. And again, nobody here, I don't care if you were a longtime UConn professor and you have a PhD and such, we're all vulnerable. We're all exposed. I'll give you an example. I just talked to Mike about my mom. Nancy Tong is the toughest immigrant businesswoman you'll ever meet, okay? Nobody gets anything past my mom. And my mom, my dad, they ran the Sampan restaurant for 20 years on Silestine Highway, if anybody remembers that place. And they made some good investments in some real estate. So they rented apartments for a long time. So one guy sends her an email saying, I'd like to rent your apartment. And she said, okay, fine. Send me a check for a security deposit. And so I don't know how much the check was for, maybe a couple $1,000 for a security deposit. So my mom gets a check in the mail from a guy in England, right? And it's for $7,000. And she emails him and says, hey, you sent me a check, but this is the wrong amount. He goes, oh, geez, I really messed up. I must have transposed a number or something. Don't worry about it. Take my $7,000 check. You can cash that. In fact, why don't you keep a little extra for yourself and just send me back the difference? Okay. And my mom is trusting and old school and does things the right way and is a tough immigrant businesswoman. Did I tell you that? Super tough, super savvy, wires the guy, $5,000. Then she goes to deposit. Yeah, I heard a sigh there. Exactly. Then she goes to deposit the check. The check was bad. That's a classic overpayment scam. She got taken for $5,000. Happens every day. Nobody is too smart, too savvy. I hear a lot of folks, particularly the really smart alecky people in the room, when I give these presentations, they say, "Oh, I like to toy with the scammers. You know, I stay on the phone with them and I give them bad information and I like to keep them on, give them a hard time, and maybe they won't be scamming somebody else." Stop. Don't do that, right? Why? Because you don't know what they're up to while you're on the phone, right? Using their computer and programmatically trying to find a way to get through to your computer or your laptop. They're recording your voice while you're talking to them, right? In this day and age of AI, right? Giving them your voice is not a good idea. And you're giving up information even though you think you're not giving up information. And you just don't want to stay on the phone with them. So what can you do? Don't pick up a call if you don't recognize the number. I know that's hard. That's another thing about us, and I include myself in this. Whenever I see a payphone, when I'm with my kids, I say, "Kids, what is that?" And they're like, "We don't know, Dad." Like a rocket ship? What is that? It's a payphone. Used to put a dime in it. Do you know what a dime is? No. So don't pick up a call from a number you don't recognize. Sometimes you'll get a call from your own number, right? Or some number that may be like a number you recognize. You can't protect yourself from everything, but I once got a call from my own number and I picked up because I thought there was something wrong with my phone. What's really scary is that we got scammed. My wife and I, we got a call from Charles Schwab, which is our bank, okay, from a number that's a Charles Schwab number. So they hacked and figured out that they could, you know, obviously a big bank like that has tons of phone numbers, and they used a Charles Schwab number to get to us, even though it was a scam. What's the other than scams that are focused on all of you? What do you think some of the most common scams are that people see out there?
I just want a Mercedes Benz. All I have to do is send them $3,000.
Right. The lottery scam or the sweepstakes scam. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second.
The relative themselves.
Yeah. So the grandparent scam,
Yep.
right? The grandparent scam. Couple things about the grandparent scam. Very common. Two things that I think are really important to keep in mind. Number one is, in this day and age of AI, you might get a sophisticated scammer who's somehow recorded your grandchild or your son or daughter's voice. And so you've got to listen very carefully. The second thing I would say is try to think of ways to protect yourself from that scam. Number one is make sure you have cell phone numbers for all of your relatives so that if somebody calls you, you can hang up and call them yourself and make sure they're okay. Also, I've been giving this tip out. I know it feels like a little too much, but at Thanksgiving, when you're all sitting around the table, come up with a code word that only you know, right? Again, that feels like a little too much, but it's not that hard to do. So buttercup, right? If that's the word and everybody knows it, then if they're really in trouble, they can say, "Hey, Granddad, I'm in trouble. Buttercup, I need your help." And that way, it's sad that we should have to do that, but also it's not that big a deal to do it. So those are a couple of tips to protect yourself. The other thing about these scams, I'll add, the other reason why you don't want to stay on the phone is because then they know you pick up. So if you notice, if you pick up a spam call sometimes, suddenly the volume of calls picks up on your phone. It's because they figured out that you pick up. And for them, it's super cheap, super easy to perpetrate these scams, to send out robocalls. Technology is nearly free for them. All they just need is a laptop, some know-how, and they're usually not in Connecticut. They're not in the United States. They're somewhere far away from my reach, frankly. And you wonder why people why they perpetrate these scams and send out all these robocalls, because you would think people are much savvier than that, much smarter than that. Well, the truth is that they just have to hit on one or two and it's worth their while, right? They send out 1 million calls and 5 people pick up, and they, they're able to get $10, $20, $50,000. The cost of doing that is so low that it makes sense for them to do it. We've been working really hard to go after these wrongdoers. We're investigating and suing the 20 worst gateway operators. These are companies that route all of these calls when they come into this country. They're the gateway. That's why they're called gateway operators. You may get a message on your phone that says potential spam. That's technology that I and other state attorneys general require the telecommunications companies to use. So that's working for you. And we just shut down the largest robocall scam ring in American history. Billions of calls, hundreds of millions of dollars stolen from the American people, including people in Connecticut. Those were fake charity scams. So let me move to that. Fake charity scams, right? Save the Children, Animal Welfare, American Red Cross, first responders, right? 9/11 Memorial Fund, all of those things. Important, of course, for all of us to give and support and to help others in need. And I'm not saying don't give. By all means, you should give. Just don't respond to somebody who's soliciting from you, right? Don't give them your credit card number. Don't give them your social security number. Don't even give them your address. Just say, thank you very much. Do you have a website or phone number? Hang up the phone. Then go on the internet and figure out if you want to give to that charity. You should do a little bit of research and then give on your own initiative, right? Take your own action. Don't respond to somebody else. Similarly, watch out for scam impersonation calls that impersonate like your local town of West Hartford for a win, right? Or Eversource or United Illuminating or State of Connecticut Department of Revenue Services. Sometimes you'll get a call saying, it's a State of Connecticut DRS. I'm sure we have some DRS retirees here, when it's not really DRS, of course, right? But they'll do everything to mimic the way that the automated telephone operator at Eversource sounds. We've seen scam calls that sound just like the automated message when you call Eversource. So no legitimate government agency, tax authority, company is going to call you and ask you for money right on the spot. They're definitely not going to ask you to send them cash by wire, and they're not going to ask you to send them gift cards. That's a big problem and a big red flag. People get a call, your grandson's in trouble, and we all know when you're under stress and something's very disorienting, confusing, people can be convinced to do a great many things, right? And even smart, savvy, experienced people have been tricked into going to get gift cards. It's so bad that we're trying to get notices put up at like CVS at the gift card kiosk to say, be careful about scam activities and do not buy gift cards to give to, people you don't know. What do you think the number one scam is for people over 60?
I thought it was the grandparent one, but my grandson didn't call me grandma.
There you go.
I'm Graham.
All right. Grandparent scam is one of the most common ones. What else? Medicare. Social Security. All right, here you go. The number one scam for people over 60 in America is the romance scam.
Hey, Win.
Why? Yeah, you have money.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to figure out when somebody is alone, right? And they're newly by themselves. Obviously, if you're an older American and you lose a spouse, you see it on Facebook or or in an obituary, these are announcements that are made so your friends and family know, and it's really easy to find that out. Also, sometimes, right, you've been with someone for 40 years and finally I kick that bastard out, good riddance, right? And it's all over Facebook and all your friends are like, great, time to go on a girls' weekend. And people see that. And that's when the scammers, and then of course, people are online meeting other people. This is the way the kids are doing it these days, and older folks are too. There are many different dating apps, and I'm not saying don't do that. If you're looking for love and you find somebody online, great, God bless. I hope that it's great and you're happy, but just be careful, right? Because scammers know that, and they're on these dating apps. These, and I know every time I bring this up, people chuckle, and I know nobody in this room is going to fall for that, but it happens a lot. And you may have a friend is like, oh, I met somebody online. He or she is great, really falling in love with this person, and there's some red flags. They're usually not in this country. They usually send pictures that are a bit too handsome, and what ends up happening is the tail on these scams is very long, year, 2 years, 3 years. And you're on the phone, and particularly, remember we were in COVID, you're all locked up in your homes and you're wearing masks, and you meet somebody and you're talking to somebody and it feels good. And then what happens is they say, I'm going to come see you, right? Like, so Fabrizio from Milan is going to get on a plane to come see you. 2 weeks before he's going to get on the plane, he says, I got in a car accident, or my mom is sick. I can't come. But if you gave me $20,000, I could take care of mom, or I could buy a new car and I get on the plane and come see you. And that's when somebody who's been waiting to meet this person they've fallen for like 2 years now, you want more than anything to see this person and meet them for the first time. And those are those high pressure situations that they're trying to jam you up, right? And people fall for it, not just for a couple $1,000s, tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars. There are people that have fallen for millions of dollars in scams. Let me get to that I'll get questions at the end. So just be careful when you're online and you're communicating with other people. I do want to tell you one more story before I turn to a very serious topic, which is fraud and abuse. But scams are really sophisticated, and you really got to be careful with your personal banking information. There's so many ways that we bank now and pay for things. I haven't yet, but I'm close to ditching my wallet because everything's on your phone now, right? And so what happened was somebody said computer repair. Okay, gentleman in Hartford had trouble with his laptop. So he went online, he found somebody to repair his laptop. They did a good job. They fixed it, $300, great. Somebody calls back and says, hey, I hope you're satisfied with your service. If you'll, give us a good review or be a good reference for us, we'd like to give you your money back. Great. Just give us your bank account information, right? Name, address, bank account information, routing information. Who knows, they might have gotten to his social security number somewhere else, right? And so he gives them the info. They call back. Holy smokes, we messed up. We sent you $20,000 by mistake. Okay. And now this guy's like, all right, something's up here. It's really fishy. So he goes and he checks his bank account. Sure enough, there's $20,000 in his checking account that wasn't there the day before. So he says, all right, I guess they're telling the truth. So he wires them the $20,000. What happened was they had gained access to his accounts. They had moved $20,000 from his savings account to his checking account. And he gave them back his own money. True story here in Hartford. And the tough thing is, by the time it gets to us and Sandra Arenas, who heads all of our work, Associate Attorney General, by the time it gets to us, sometimes we can get people their money back. But most of the time, these guys are gone, right? They're in another country. phone numbers are canceled, email accounts aren't real, they're gone. So the best way to protect yourself from scams is not to get scammed in the first place. Let me turn now to a really important and serious issue, and that is fraud and abuse. I've given everybody a number here and a flyer. It's the Elder Justice Hotline, 860-808-5555. We'll circulate it to the people online here, and maybe Bernadette to the membership by email. Use that number to call me for any reason. If you're a victim of a scam, call that number. But we set up this number so that people would have one number to call if they need help. All of you know, you in particular, that there are tons of resources across state government and municipal government to help people. Tons of resources, grant programs, counselors. At DSS, there's elderly protective services. But even if you ask me who to call for any particular issue, it's like, where do you start, right? It's a dizzying number of state agencies and municipal law enforcement. And it's not hard to get confused really quick. And to get through to somebody who actually can help you can be tough to do. So with the Elder Justice Coalition, we now man this number that rings in my office, and Sandy's team picks up the phone. After hours, you leave a message, we'll call you back. And there's an online form. The best thing to do, by the way, you can call, but the best way to get help is to fill out the form. So, and the form, the link to the form is here. And so it's one-stop shopping for any issue that people over 60 are having, but in particular, elder abuse and fraud. Unfortunately, older Americans are increasingly victims of fraud. I think last year, across this country, more than $36 billion in financial fraud. And what's really hard about financial fraud against older Americans, it's not, the scams don't make up the bulk of it, right? That happens, sure. But the truth is, most of the fraud happens between people that are close to each other. So in terms of financial fraud, more than half of the cases, the perpetrator, the wrongdoer, is someone you know and you're very close to. Son, daughter, niece, nephew, spouse, right? Brother, sister, somebody, we all know the story. You love this person, maybe you depend on this person, right? They take you to your doctor's appointments. They help you pay your bills. They arrange for your grass to get cut, right? They help you day to day, but then they get jammed up and they need $1,000. Help me out. I lost my job. I just want to get back on my feet. $1,000 becomes $5,000, right? And maybe you don't just give them your car keys, but they have access to your credit cards. They have access to your social security information. Most of the time, it's somebody that you love and depend on. And they take advantage of you and steal, and sometimes take all the money that you have. And why, the reason why this is not just so hard and tragic, but why it's hard to get at from a law enforcement perspective, is because it is vastly underreported. Okay, something like 1 in 40 cases of financial fraud is actually reported. Why? Because you don't want to rat out somebody in your family to the police. And it's embarrassing, right, that your niece or nephew took advantage of you. And you rationalize in so many different ways. You know, they've had a tough life, or, you know, they really caught a bad break here and they made a bad decision. And you're obviously, in addition to being trusting, you're forgiving, right? It is not okay. It is never okay for someone to steal from you and take advantage of you. Never. And I know that all of you know that. If you feel like you're a victim, call this number. If you don't want to give your name right away, just call the number. And we can try to find somebody, a counselor, to talk to you, even anonymously, to start the process going. If you know somebody right? That is a neighbor, you know, in the condo or apartment next door, and you think something's going on with their son or daughter, call. You don't even have to give their name, but we can find a counselor to help you with the right language, try to coax them into helping themselves. It happens all the time. It happens way too much. And again, these are criminal acts. It's not okay. And it puts people at great risk. Not just financial risk, by the way. Very often, financial fraud is accompanied by physical abuse. And that is something that we're seeing more and more of. Again, the same rules pertain, right? More than 60% of physical abuse cases are somebody very close to you, usually somebody you depend on. That can include not just relatives, but caregivers. So you literally need this person, right, to get through the day. And they know that they have tremendous power in that situation, and people suffer from abuse. The number of elder abuse cases between 2011, 2017, so that 6-year period, doubled. Okay, so understand that that number is going up. The number of people that report is still low for the same reasons, because they're embarrassed, because they're scared, because they don't want their relative to go to jail. Something like 1 in 23 cases gets reported. What's really important to know is that the state of Connecticut in DSS, Department of Social Services, has an elderly protective services unit. So we have a state unit that has authority to go in and protect people from elder abuse, physical abuse. So again, if you're a victim, call. If you don't want to give your name, just start the conversation. The same, if you know somebody who you think needs help, try to get them to call their number so we can help them. These are really serious issues. Nobody should have to navigate them alone. That's why we set up this Elder Justice Hotline, 860-808-5555. Call for any reason. If we can help you, obviously ourselves, we will. If we can get somebody else on the phone to help, we will do that. If we can't help, we'll be honest about that. You know, people call about disputes with their neighbors, right, over the property line or overhanging tree, or, you know, you told me you split the cost of snow plowing, you didn't do it. We can't help you with that, right? That's a private dispute with somebody else. Unless something rises to the level of something criminal or fraud, very often, you know, if there's a private transaction between two people, we don't have the authority to engage. But if you're the victim of fraud or abuse, by all means, let us know. So with that, happy to take questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.